I think it's important to highlight that Iran is generally incensed with Turkey's expansion in the region. In Azerbaijan, Iran had hoped that its Shia identity would exert more influence over the Azeri population than Turkish nationalism. In Syria, we're seeing increasing bilateral talks between Turkey and Russia to the exclusion of Iran. But Iran is especially incensed with Turkey's expansion in Iraq and suggestions that Turkey will conduct an offensive in Sinjar, which Iran considers a vital crossing to support its allies in Syria. And while it's not the only crossing that Iran uses, it's certainly one of the more preferable ones for Iran by virtue of the demographics of the region, which Iran considers is more aligned with its ideology and worldview than perhaps Sunni majority Anbar. And it is in this context that we're seeing these increased attacks on Iraqi Kurdistan and on Erbil as Turkey expands its security operations and its security agreements with a very willing Iraqi Kurdistan that is still disgruntled that the US did not support its unilateral bid for independence, and still disgruntled that the US chose instead to support Baghdad and indirectly the pro-Iran militias against Kurdish forces in order to ensure that Iraqi Kurdistan did not secure its independence. And Iraqi Kurdistan is now seeking to diversify its allies, observing how Turkey helped Azerbaijan and Libya in order to plan a long-term attempt once more for independence and ensuring it has the military capacity to prevent any resistance from Baghdad. And it is in this context that these attacks that we're seeing on Iraqi Kurdistan are messages from Iran to Turkey and not the US. Iran does not want to provoke the US, particularly in an environment in which Biden is keen on signing a nuclear deal with Iran, even if it means going against the wishes of his allies in the region, Israel and the Gulf allies. Biden is intent on giving Iran what it perceives to be a momentous victory, irrespective of the circumstances on the ground in the region. And Iran therefore takes great pains to ensure that the US has prior knowledge of any attacks on US positions, to ensure there are no US casualties that might result in a conflict and in a war. Iran believes that its influence will be recognized in any potential nuclear deal, and that the US will only really be concerned by events in Iraqi Kurdistan insofar as it values Turkish presence in the region, which currently does not seem to be especially the case.